Welcome to Threads Podcast, Life Unfiltered. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, Jason is uncomfortably playing with a brown water bottle. Take that as you will.
Yeah. This is called LMNT. It's supposed to not to break a fast. It's called chocolate salt, but it went in like poop. So
it did look like a turd. Anyways, welcome to this episode. I think we're episode 182. Threads Podcast is
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Water's not gonna help. You're gonna need something.
That's probably I'm not kidding. You need to drink some of this.
Nope.
That is probably the worst thing I've ever drank in my life.
Well, this is a space for unfiltered stuff, including unfiltered dialogue about faith, mental health, and uncomfortable conversations. Jason, what in the world are we doing other than laughing at your poor life decisions?
So we're going to do a weekly check-in. Don't ever drink LMNT chocolate salt. It tastes like caca. And then we're going to talk to Blake Fine from Rethinking Christianity podcast. I think you'll really enjoy that. He's got a great follow on Instagram, so check that out. And then, we're just going to chat it up. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So today what I learned, Mike asked me to do it. I remembered it 20 minutes before the show started.
Yes.
Typical Jason. I have 3 and you get to vote which is the best one.
Ooh,
okay. So these will be short. So first one is today I learned vodka eyeballing is the practice of consuming vodka by pouring it into the eye sockets where it is absorbed through the mucous membranes of the region into the bloodstream.
What in the hell?
The terrible part is it does not induce rapid intoxication. However, since the amount of alcohol absorbed by the eye is low, then why do it?
Yeah.
Have you heard of no, this is gross.
Yep. Through the butt.
Yes. Or chicks with tampons.
Yeah.
At least you get shit faced quick. If you're going to go through that, at least but this does nothing.
Oh, the eye. First of all, that's gross, the eye. But then, yeah, if it's not giving you the benefit, what in the hell are people doing?
So speaking of eye, I had a branch hit my eye today and there's no mark, but it started watering. I was telling Megan, I was like, what happened if I got poked with a branch and then I backed up and it just pulled my eye out?
No.
And she was like, is that too much?
Yeah,
are you struggling?
Keep going.
Are you hot?
No.
And I was like, is there any way to save that? She goes, no, you're going to be called Patches after that happens. So
Patches.
Yeah. So that's the first one. The second one is, this is quick. Bats eat enough insects to save the U.S. over $1 billion a year in crop damage.
Okay, I can see that.
What is your feeling on bats?
Well, they're creepy because they're a mixture of 2 things I hate: mice and rats, and then birds.
You don't like birds?
Ugh.
I feed all the birds out there. We have 7 different
Terrible
varieties.
Person.
Why don't you like birds?
Birds can peck your eye out.
Speaking of eyes, it all comes back to the eye.
See?
Question for you. Did I ever tell you my bat story on this show?
No.
Did you ever hear it when Ben and I were on?
I didn't hear it, or at least I didn't remember it.
Give the short version. I love bats outside of my house, but inside of my house, I don't like bats.
Well, that makes sense.
I'm pretty sure we have a bat family that lives up there. I've seen them come in and out. We've heard them over the years at times, but we'll go years without it. So one day there was a bat up in flying around up in the exercise room. We're like, holy shit, go in there, shut the door. Can't find the bat. I'm like, I know it's in here. Looked around, couldn't find it. I'm like, maybe it flew out, whatever. Laid down in bed at about 10:30. Megan's like, the bat starts flying around and the ceiling fan's going. I screamed like a girl and hid in the closet. Well, Megan scooped the bat into a pillowcase and let it outside.
So you're scared of bats too?
I am scared of bats. Someone breaks in my house, I will be the first one to bust through that door. But if a bat's in there, you're good luck.
That's the way it is at our house. Natalie has to take care of
the creepy crawlies.
So I tell you a dead bird fell from our roof
recently?
Yeah.
No.
So I was cooking burgers and I was just finished, pulled them off, and all of a sudden, just barely in front of me, plop, was a bird. And it was a little baby bird that had fallen off the roof. It rolled down the roof and plopped there, but it missed my burgers by 2 feet. Can you imagine if it would have fallen on my burgers? How?
I would have still eaten it.
I probably would have thrown the plate and pure Bleh!
So the bird was already dead?
No, that one wasn't. Second time there was, and our dog got it.
So the one that was alive, did you just step on it?
Natalie threw it away because it had fallen from a long ways and then was shaking.
You step on it. to finish. Don't let it suffer.
I don't know what she did. I stay away
She
from
probably ate it.
that. She did
Okay.
not eat it. Okay, so and then third one.
This one's not safe for work. Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Oops. It actually gave me a warning. It said, "Are you 18?" Today I learned the honeymoon rhinitis, rhinitis, is a condition that causes stuffy nose during sexual arousal due to erectile tissue in the nose being engorged during arousal and should not be confused with sexually inducing sneezing, which is uncontrollable bouts of sneezing caused by sexual arousal. Michael, my question to you is, do you have any of these issues?
No.
Thank God, I don't either.
But that's so interesting.
I know, I never heard of this shit.
It's sitting in your nose. So I have to pick which one's the best?
Yeah, what out of the three, which do you think is the
Okay,
best?
tell me what the first one was again.
The first one was vodka eyeball, bats, and then sexual sneezing.
Vodka, because that's the weirdest thing.
Really?
Because it's probably painful and it doesn't give you any benefit.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. Like, who even does this?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like drinking this caca water.
And again, if it would get you drunk quicker, I could see why people do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But if there's no benefit, why are you torturing yourself?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be blind. Okay, you want to know the really bad part about me is I told Natalie if she's ever blind, I can't be married to her.
Why?
Oh, blind people creep me out. I know. No, I will send you to Jesus or like whatever.
I will send you to Jesus.
I know it's a terrible view, but like, it's just, their eyes are always looking off the.
Do you want me to edit this out?
No, it's
I swear to God, if she goes blind, I'm gonna come over and beat the shit out of you.
I know you should.
Try.
You should. Like, that's the one thing I put in my vow is like the one. No, I'm just saying I didn't do that.
But she's gonna kick your ass.
No, she knows this. I tell her this all the time. It's just telling other people. I'm just telling you how messed up I am and how much I need Jesus. Anyways. So Jason, those were some great things I learned. That's why I had you do it, because I think it's too much of what I've learned and we need to know what you learned.
Yeah. No, all those things. I kind of knew the bat thing. I knew bats are great for the environment with insects, but I didn't know it saved $1 billion of crap.
Yeah, so
crop damage.
So tell me which one's your favorite out of those three.
I think the sexual sneezing thing. I'm always fascinated by medical stuff that's super weird, like why you have erectile tissue in your nose. I don't know.
See, that's I think another reason for there being a creator, because who would do that other than a creator going, this is going to be funny.
Yeah, these 100 people are going to deal with this. I'm like,
and they're going to have this. So Jason, how was your weekend?
You're supposed to go first. Oh no, I am. Never mind.
I asked you the question.
Yeah, I'm an idiot.
I'm a smooth transitioner.
You are. You're smooth.
Smooth criminal.
So, who sings that?
It's not Red Hot Chili Peppers. Who is that?
Oh my God. You don't know who sings that?
No.
I was going to pull a joke, and now this gets even better.
Crap, who is that?
Michael John Van Dree.
Yeah, I'm sheltered. Okay, who was it?
One of the most iconic pop singers that's ever lived is currently dead.
Prince or Michael Jackson?
It's Michael Jackson, for God's sake.
I don't like Michael Jackson.
Why?
We've talked about this. I don't know.
His music is great.
I think he was overrated. Anyways.
Before
the people kill me, how was your weekend?
No kidding. Gosh. It was interesting. Megan went to a lavender festival on Friday.
Okay. What is a lavender festival?
So basically there's fields in Imlake City, which is, dude, it's like north of Detroit. It's a long drive.
Like Thumb, right?
Thumb area,
yeah.
Correct. And there's lavender fields there, and it's just a hippy dippy, like it's got vendors and stuff like that. And so she was there all day. So check this out. Tell me what you think about this. I know what you would do. I know you. So they go there and they go to the vendors or whatever, and then the lavender farm is like 10-minute drive. So they go there and it's $7.50 each to get in. They're like, okay, and it's at 4:30 and it closes at 5. No, that's on Megan and Brandy. They got there late. That's fine. I would still charge you if you got there at 4:30. Yeah. It's not my problem. They get in there. There's no lavender. It's all brown because it doesn't bloom till July.
What? And they charged them.
Yeah. So Megan was doing something and Brandy went and talked to the lady and she's like, there's no lavender here to pick, but you charge us $7.50. Can we have our money back? She was like, no.
So what exactly were you supposed to do in these lavender fields?
Yeah, I should share the picture on social media after this episode. It's just literal brown.
Let's bash this place.
Well, I said to Megan, I said, listen, why don't you email them? Maybe that wasn't the owner that said no. Maybe it was a kid. I don't know. Email the owner, see what they say. If they still give you trouble, then I said go to Yelp.
Yeah. There should be a big sign like lavender is not blooming.
Right. So maybe there was more things to do there. I don't know, but they specifically went for the lavender. And the lady should have checked her right there. Like, hey, just to let you know, the fields don't bloom till July because, we're from Grand Rapids. We don't have lavender fields over here.
But we have lavender. But you don't think about that. You think maybe they have special lavender and they figured it out.
No, you're just trying to support the community.
That's crazy.
So she was gone Friday. So I got home from work early on Friday. So I had kids all Friday. And then she worked Saturday so she could go to the Lavender Festival and take Friday off. So I had kids all Saturday. And my kids were kind of assholes this weekend. I'm really struggling with my middle child, Avery, on gratitude and not being a bougie bee and just she doesn't know what struggle is.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to break that habit.
Yeah.
Basically, just for a quick example, Dad doesn't like to cook. And so we had takeout Friday night and Saturday night. But on Friday night, she was like, they love Chick-fil-A. The kids love it.
Oh, I love Chick-fil-A.
It's okay. I think it's overrated. The fries are really good, but the chicken's like, I would take a Wendy's chicken sandwich over Chick-fil-A any day.
Nah, bro.
Yeah. So she always wants Chick-fil-A. I said, no, I want pizza. And she's like, oh, okay. And I ignored that. And then like half hour later, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go pick up the pizza. She said, what'd you get? I said, oh, I got pizza. And then Peppino's has these cinnamon pizza puffs.
Ooh.
So like basically pizza dough, like broken up into little bite size with cinnamon and sugar and vanilla icing to dip. It's orgasmic.
Can I side note it? Is it better than cactus bread?
I don't even know.
Pizza Ranch?
So I went to Pizza Ranch maybe one time when I went to high school at Community.
Okay, we're gonna have to go sometime with the kids because you might as well just have kids there because it's grab as much pizza. You have to try cactus bread.
I will try. I had a lot of DJ's Pizza because they sold it at school, but I never went to the restaurant.
Okay. Anyway, so back to this bread, which is amazing.
And I said, but I didn't even eat breadsticks. She goes, oh. And I didn't see her do that. And I put my head in the living room, and this is what I said. And I swear on a holy Bible, are you fucking kidding me? And I don't ever like swear at my kids. I usually swear. I looked at her. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And she didn't say anything. She knew I was mad. So it's just stuff like that. And then we got Chick-fil-A on Friday or on Saturday and everything was fine. But I'm just like, bro, like I don't know about you growing up, but I got fast food. We got takeout and it was usually pizza on Thursday once a week.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
And sometimes not that.
Yeah. We would have it. So when my mom worked, my dad would either pick up pizza or deli food.
We would do hot now or pizza.
Oh, see, there's a place in Zealand my dad went by. But man, that's hard. That's hard when you know how hard money is earned, and then when you do something that's not appreciated because you didn't get a breadstick.
Yeah. I'm like, seriously, I got you cheese pizza and cinnamon like shit, and it's delicious. So
it's time for Kraft mac and cheese for her for a little bit.
She loves that, but I mean,
only that.
I don't know, but Megan and I created rules last night. Let me tell you,
I'm just
we won't go into that. So. Yeah. And then I went to bed at 9 p.m. on Sunday. I don't know why. I was just tired.
You were done.
Yeah, and I slept in quotes till 7 Sunday morning because Saturday I got up at 5 so I could run at 6:15. So I don't mind getting up early, but yeah, I don't know what it was. But
well, and so when you were having that, we were at Buddy's Pizza in Grand Rapids.
When?
Friday night when you were having all the trouble with your pizza.
Oh,
we were having Buddy's Pizza, which
thanks for the invite.
Amazing. It's Cam's end of school, and he invites some of the neighbors, and we go out there.
Mike doesn't like to spend time with the Tieries. Like
we tried.
We've given date upon dates, and they constantly cancel, and they can't do anything.
You know what? Friday was one of the dates we offered.
I know.
Anyways, so we were there. So anyways, my weekend we had a good long run. I had a good long run.
Oh, I had a good long run too.
You had a good long run. You didn't mention, but I had a good long run on Saturday morning. I went to a birthday party of a friend. Here's the thing. I'm getting so damn old. Friend's turning 40. I'm like, crap. I'm turning 40.
You're knocking on the door.
I know I'm knocking.
You got 3 years.
No, I don't.
When's your birthday?
I'm 38 now.
I
My
thought you were
birthday's in
37.
August. No, my birthday's in
Oh,
August.
so you're like, you are not. So you got a year and a half, or no,
year and a couple months. I
yeah.
know. Nelly's turning 40 this December.
Oh,
I know.
Are you gonna book a trip to Mexico and then forget to do your passport?
That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, that'll be nice. That'd be great for content for the show.
Or I'd have a surprise party for Nelly. No, I already told him to have a surprise party. She'd kill me.
You got to do something though. Not gift wise. Like she doesn't want a gift. She wants like an adventure.
No, she would like, and this we were kind of figured it out. She'd like an open house where people would just come and just hang out with her.
Okay.
Like people she knows and loves. So you guys will not be invited.
Well, I'll be invited, but Megan will have to work 17 hours in a row or something.
Poor Megan. She's always working.
But she's not. That's the funny part.
But she is, like, especially on weekends, right? Because it's every third. And
it's every third, yeah.
And then we went to a Wear Orange time in Holland, which is for the gun violence. There are people there writing to the senator, to Huizinga, who's your rep.
That twat. It's your rep too.
I know, but I also knew it last time.
I'm gonna have to mark this explicit. Yes. I'm getting off the rails again.
This is good. I love it. This is the real stuff. But anyways, so there's the phone calls, letter writing. There's other things. It was cool to see people in Holland who were there, but the thing I was most disappointed, I saw like 2 to 3 other church staff that I knew in all of Holland there. The rest were not there.
Well, you're a misnomer in the Holland community in the religious thing. You're not. Most of them are right-leaning Republican. So,
and even those who were moderate weren't there. I was disappointed not to see that. And maybe again because it was like a 2-hour segment, maybe they came later. But
so on TikTok, you can repost stuff. Have you been seeing that? Me reposting things that I've seen about it? Because you can repost like a retweet. I just wonder what it looks like. I've never
seen it. No,
but the algorithm is picking up things like pissed about gun violence, and there was some guy today that like basically shit talked the Republicans in the House from Michigan.
Okay,
and like, yeah, see all those Republicans over there? They keep stopping us having comment and blah blah blah. So, anyways, if you follow my TikTok, it might be
So everyone follow Jason's TikTok and you'll know more about that.
You'll know more about where I stand. Mike went to an orange thing, but didn't wear orange. I saw a picture. He was the only one.
But I also had a sign. You didn't see it in the picture, but I have no shirt that's an
orange.
Could you
at least spray painted the shirt orange?
I could have, or what I wanted to do, but we decided not to. Like I have a hunter's vest.
There you go. Oh, though that's weird.
See, it came up
weird. Nope, you're right. Good call.
Now the only person who wore an orange vest was, like, I feel bad. That's like when people work on the road. I was gonna say trash. It's the
safety
orange
vest.
Safety vest, but I didn't have that.
Yeah,
somebody had the orange safety vest. I'm like, okay, that's good. But the orange hunting, I was
call.
Like,
that was a very smart move, Michael.
I'd rather wear gray than that. So
yeah. No, I've never been to a quote unquote protest march. I've never done that.
That was our third.
Really?
Yeah. When
for the gun violence?
No, there was one when they're separating families. So we did that, and then when there were one of the early shootings in COVID of the black male in, was it George Floyd? Was it George Floyd?
Probably George Floyd.
I think it was George Floyd one. And so we did that. So it's the third one. Cam, right? Third one already too. So he's going strong. We always try to tell him why we're doing it. Like,
yeah. Do you ever feel that you're indoctrinating your son on your beliefs? Maybe he doesn't like that.
But he'll be able to decide. Like we talk with him many times, and like, this is what we're deciding. This is why. You don't have to believe it when you grow older, but this is why we're doing it. One last thing is Cam started to lift weights. He actually lifted today. And so I set up a little program for him. Like I have an app that I use, and I changed one of my programs to his, but I forgot I left 2 extra things on, and he did them all. He comes in, Dan, I'm so sore.
Oh, he's going to be screwed. Not tomorrow, but a little bit tomorrow, but the next day.
But he's young though. He's not old like us.
That's true.
It's usually next day. And so he did a couple extra lifts in there, but he's wanting, basketball and track. And I was like, yes, he's lifting weights.
That's so cool.
I feel like one of those dads. So my son's lifting weights.
Don't be like that.
No, it's his option. And I say, I'll help you as you want, but you have to decide to do it. So
for sure. So next up, we're going to be talking with Blake Fine, a Rethinking Christianity podcast. Found Blake on Instagram. I don't really know how I found him. Like I follow you can follow hashtags.
Yep.
I'm sure you knew that. You're pretty savvy Instagrammer.
Pretty techy.
Probably more than me.
Nah.
But so I think I did maybe like faith and podcasts and whatever, and somehow I found it, and I was like, oh, I kind of like, this stuff, and I think he'd be good on the show. So yeah, we're going to talk to him, and I hope you enjoy it, and we will talk about what we learned on the flip side. Hey, Blake, thank you so much for joining us on Threads podcast, Life Unfiltered. I've love to, I'm excited to talk to you because I've kind of followed you on Instagram, and I don't know if I found you on a hashtag or something. It's super weird how I found you, but the algorithm is like what you look at and stuff like that. So I'm glad I found you, and we're going to talk about you and your podcast about rethinking Christianity. That was a rough intro, I know, Mike. It's
you know what? It's just one of those days.
It's one of those.
We're gonna roll with it.
We're gonna roll. So Blake, why don't you give us like a 60-second? I always tell people an elevator speech. Like somebody said, "Hey, who are you and what do you do?" And then we'll kind of talk about you a little bit.
Cool, sweet. My name is Blake. I am from Georgia, South Georgia. I live up in North Georgia now, which is a lot different than South Georgia. If you know anything about the history of Georgia, there's a lot of reasons for that. But anyways, so I actually am a student pastor. I work at a church here in Dalton, Georgia, and I started doing the podcast, Rethinking Christianity. I think like in the middle of like the pandemic, like in the middle of 2020. And so when you're quarantining, you have a lot of time by yourself thinking too much. And so part of it was that, and part of it was just growing up in a certain form of Christianity that kind of led me to rethinking some things, hence the name Rethinking Christianity. So, but yeah, I work in church. I like to read a lot, and that's kind of what I do. I don't have a whole lot going on. I work part-time at a coffee shop as well in the mornings, which is fun. That's just kind of like a little side thing. I choose to continue to do it. So it's fun.
You just want the free coffee, eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So is there a certain drink that is your favorite?
So for a while there, I really liked, you like the basic lattes or whatever, but I've become a coffee snob. So I just like just a regular black coffee and, taste it. It's just easier to just do that than have to do all the other stuff. So yeah, just regular old drip coffee or like a pour over or something.
Pour over. Ooh, right there is speaking to my heart. So,
Yeah.
Like sometimes with a good pour over is just the perfect way to start a day.
Yep. Sometimes I just like the process of doing it. So
yeah, I recently started intermittent fasting, and so I used to get coffee and then creamer in the morning, but you can't do that. So I've been drinking like, I don't think you guys have Meyer down there, but it's like a Midwest grocery store. But I've been drinking their coffee just black, and like,
you got to buy better stuff. When
it's just not cutting it. So you
got to find a local roaster or something.
Yeah. Oh, there's tons of them around here. I just have to, do the old taste test and stuff. But yeah, it's not good without creamer. So, but so what's the difference between North and South Georgia in regards to what you were speaking of?
So bluntly put, South Georgia has a lot more farmland. And so historically there's more slaves and things like that. So there's a lot more diversity in South Georgia than North Georgia. Like where I'm at now, there's a lot of rich white people, and in South Georgia, it's not. So just bluntly, that's the big difference. There's a lot more diversity. And it's more flat. There's less mountains. So
and Georgia's a long ass state. When you're driving to Florida, like
it won't stop.
Yeah. It's same.
Yeah, it really is. Just I-75 straight down. We live like 30 minutes from Chattanooga. And so like if you drive, I'm going to the beach in a couple weeks, and we're just going to straight down the state.
There you go.
Well, you and Mike should get along because Mr. Mike is a youth pastor.
Oh, nice.
As well. So
you get away with cussing? That's awesome.
Well, I'm not sure if I get away. Well, yes, kind of. I mean, a small amount. We're also not like Baptist at all, so it makes it a little bit easier.
I'm at a Methodist church, so it's a little better.
Yeah,
I grew up Baptist.
Yeah,
so
Baptists do not like their swearing, but it's
I do though. So
well, Mike doesn't swear a lot. I'm usually the one, but some of the things I protect Michael on the show, and I'm like, I gotta beep that because it cannot go out that way.
You make it sound worse when you.
I know the beeping does make it sound worse.
Yeah, I played one. I think I started listening on. I don't know which one, but within the first like little bit, I just heard a beep, and I was like, all right.
Ooh, that's a recent one. This
will be awesome.
Yeah. So your podcast, you mentioned a little bit, you started it during COVID. What about COVID made you go, hey, I am want to start a podcast now? Other than time, you mentioned time, but
Yeah. Well, Tom, and I had not, I had wanted to do a podcast for a while. I just like the idea of it. I like to write, but I'm like kind of lazy. And so I don't want to write. And so I was like, what way can I like get my opinions out there, or thoughts out there without having to do I mean, it is work doing the podcast, but like I can just kind of get on here and just talk. And so I just started I was like, you know what, I'm going to like do a podcast. And I was thinking through like ideas, and I'd grown up in like one form of Christianity pretty much my whole life, whether it been at the Methodist church where I'm from or the Baptist church. They just had there's really no difference. And they literally are right across the street from each other, or they were before one of the churches moved. But, I think growing up in that, and then just thinking through, well, what would I want to talk about? And I just kind of began to see a lot of how politicized Christianity had become, and how I just didn't feel like people were really actually caring about what this Jesus guy had to say. They cared about salvation, and the idea of where you're going to go after you die or whatever. But it was well, what about while we're here? And so I struggled with that for most of my life. And, so I had the idea come to me oh, what if I had a podcast called Rethinking Christianity, where I just talked about a bunch of different ideas. And one of the things I started reading a guy named John Mark Comer, and he talked about this idea of following the way of Jesus, which was kind of right up my alley at the time. And I just kind of was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to do it and see if I can hit up some people to do interviews and talk to different folks. And it went a lot easier than I thought it would be. I thought a lot of people would say no, but apparently people like to talk about themselves. So I was able to get a bunch of authors on. I hit up some different publishing companies and things like that. And so, but mainly I just wanted to have a place where there could be, open conversation, and just kind of let my thoughts out. So that was kind of the big thing, time and just doing it and seeing where it would go. It was kind of let's see how far this can go.
Yeah, I listened to 2 episodes. I listened to the one you suggested, and I listened to the one with Brian. I think that was your last one.
Yeah, Brian McLaren. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know any of these people. I'm not. My story is I grew up Christian and like a CRC. What was it?
Christian Reformed.
Christian Reformed. I didn't know if Southern people this Christian Reformed goes all the way down to the Southern.
A little bit, but not much. So,
okay.
So he may not know.
But anyways,
I'm shocked I don't know that one.
Yeah. Wow. So it's every corner up here, bro. So yeah, I don't know a lot of those authors, but I thought I wanted to get a taste of your podcast. So I enjoyed the interview. And then you and your friend today, the one that you sent, I remember you hearing something about saying, which really resonated with me, feeling guilty, not knowing everything or something like that with the Bible, feeling you don't have to know everything, and it's okay to say something, and you're not like a dirtbag or a non-Christian if you be I really don't get this, because that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. And that was another big thing, was the more I was reading about the Bible, particularly because my undergrad was in Christian studies or whatever, the more I was bro, these pastors that I've been listening to are morons. That's literally was my thinking. I was these guys literally don't have any clue. And it's not that that I do. It's the fact that I don't, and I've never been taught this, and it's being revealed to me through reading and stuff like that, that I was kind of you know what? And it was really uncomfortable at first, because you have this foundation of how you're taught to believe in a certain way, system of beliefs. And if that is pulled out from under you, it's kind of well, what do I do now? And thankfully, I've had a lot of time to look at different resources and stuff like that, but I'm on a continual journey of just thinking through well, what does this mean for me, particularly at this point in time? And I think the best place to start as any person of faith is saying, I don't have all the answers, and I probably never will.
Yeah.
How do you feel so I always think of Mike, because he's got a boss, and that's the lead pastor. I mean, he's got the board and everything too, but how have they responded to those kind of thoughts? Because they're listening to the podcast, whether they say to or not. They're checking in on you. You know what I mean?
I've only gotten positive feedback, and I think some of it is I try to be wise about it. I try not to put every like thought I have out there, just because the one big thing is, well, in the same way in which I've changed so much, like once you put it out there, it's out there. And what if I change? Like, what if my thoughts change on that? And now, there's some things I'll talk about, but I've only had positive feedback. I mean, I think they know that most of the time I'm interviewing people and I'm kind of just letting them talk, and I try not to share a lot of my own thoughts, because there are times, obviously when I interview people, I don't agree with them. And I try to protect myself in some ways, but sometimes I'm like, I really don't care that much. But I've even put on there like guests, or the opinions of guests are their own and not mine. So yeah, so but I've not had any negative feedback, and I have some of these private conversations with people that I work with individually. So anything that they hear may not be like super shocking.
Yeah. So on the episode we listened to, you had talked about your faith in your childhood. Can you tell us just a little bit about how your faith was in your childhood? And
yeah, so I grew up like, pretty much saying my whole life that I was a Christian. I grew up in church. My mom raised me. She would read me this story Bible every night before bed, and I would learn all the stories from the Old Testament, which, like, reading back on those now, it's like these are pretty violent, like, and they
yes.
really sugarcoat the whole killing of everybody.
Yeah.
And so
Noah is a terrible story for kids, and we tell them about it, and we leave out like everyone but Noah's family died. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then they leave out the stuff that happens after they get to land, where Noah and his sons and people have some fun in a tent. Yep. But so anyways, I grew up, with that kind of background, and I'm really thankful that, my mom, raised me in that way, and my parents, we all went to church or whatever. I got, saved or whatever when I was like 18, 17 or 18, going into my senior year of high school.
Dude, that's late, dude. I mean, that's late in the church.
So I went to like, I would have said I was a Christian for most of my life, but this was when I first had like an experience, I guess, where I felt like I needed to like respond. And so I just kind of like struggled with that. But then after I turned 18 or so, I started getting really involved at the church that I was in. And then I started to think like, okay, I think I want to work in church. And so I ended up, like, my first 2 years where I lived, I stayed at home after I graduated. And then I went to a Christian college up in North Georgia, and that's how I ended up this way. And that was where I started to have some like changes in my like thinking, because I had a professor that I took this Old Testament course on just First and Second Kings, and he started to present these questions that I had never thought about, like in regards to just the Bible. Because growing up in I guess you could call it a fundamental background. It's not fundamental in the way of like the people were really mean or anything like that. It was just they had their beliefs, and we all believe this. And if you don't, then you're not really a Christian in the way in which we think it means to be a Christian. And so once I started dealing with some of those questions, I remember I'd call my mom and she'd be like, "You're going to let this like ruin your faith or whatever." And it was one of those things, but over time, like those things that I began to question, I'm really glad that I started to question them, because I think it's opened a lot of doors for me to have conversations with other people that are struggling with those things. And I don't have like conclusions that I've come to on a lot of those things, but the biggest thing growing up is, reading the Bible literally, not very inclusive. I mean, I was at a First Baptist church a lot of my life in a small town in South Georgia, where the town is divided by like railroad tracks, and on one side of the town it's a black population, on the other side of the town is white. So like I was around white people at church, and during the rest of the week I was around all kinds of different people. And we said we would include everyone and we loved everyone like Jesus, but at times it was like, why do I never see any of these other people here? And the same thing for the black churches in the town. But that was kind of the Christianity I grew up, just pretty much the Southern, like, this is what we believe, this is how we believe it. And I didn't realize that there were any other viewpoints out there. And it was just kind of once I left is when things kind of started to change a little bit for me in college.
Yeah. So now, looking back on your childhood, are there things in how they raised you with the Christian faith that you're thankful for?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that mean, I think the morals that I grew up with are good. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with some of the things that, I didn't drink in high school. It's probably good that I didn't do that. There's some stuff like that. Even if you're not religious, I think they're fine things to kind of follow. But I think the problem is when it becomes like a burden that you have to carry. For a lot of people, that's what it becomes. It's like this weight of just following morals. I think that, some of my best friends I had in high school were at my church. And so the community that I had was good. I have no knocks against the church I went to. I have no knocks against them or anything like that. It was a good place and the people were really kind to me and they took me in. So I probably just think a lot differently than they do at this point in my life.
Yeah, which is fair. And I asked that a little bit because like I've been on quite a bit of faith journey, and it's easy to look back at my childhood church and see all of their flaws, and there were flaws, and yet go, the reason why I'm a Christian now is because of the things that I was taught in Sunday school, even though Noah was taught in a way that wasn't fully true, and some of the things I'm like, I would question those now. But yeah, it's easy sometimes to throw everything instead of going, no, they were good there. So I'm glad for you.
Yeah.
There was some solid things. So tell us more about that college time and the questions that you started to ask, the questions you started to wrestle with.
Yeah, so I mentioned that I took this First and Second Kings class, and one of the things that this professor he has a really dry sense of humor, and so he knew that all of us. It was at a Baptist college, and so he knew that most of us in the class were coming from these different, like really not different places, similar backgrounds of faith. So one view, one way of believing as Christians. And so he would pose these questions that were a lot of times like very like they had no answer, but he would expect us to be like, so what are you going to do with this kind of thing? So like, for instance, there's some verses, and I can't remember if it refers to Solomon. I don't remember what book, and I don't, because we would read through different portions of different books in this class. But one of the things that he would ask about is like these sacrifice numbers, where there are these absurd numbers of sacrifices that are being had, and he would like say, how is this possible if there's only this amount of land, and if he was sacrificing this many animals at this, it would take him, he would have to kill a cow every like 30 seconds or whatever, and he would do these things just to screw with us. But then that began me like, okay, well, if there's this, then I'm sure there are other things that I have never thought about. And so I would go to his office and I would ask him, be like, yo, so like, what's the deal here? And he would never give me a straight answer. And I'm really, really glad that he didn't. Because like the way in which it created this discovery for me of like, okay, there's a lot of different things that are going on in this book, and the way in which it's been presented to me may not have been the way it was even intended to be used for those that wrote it. So it started there. And that's when I started to question like developments of like why we believe what we believe. Like, how did these different doctrines become what they are today? And like, and all that stuff. And so I just was like, finally came to a point where sometimes I would lay like in bed at night and be like, dude, I don't even know if I believe this junk anymore. And I'm in school. And so, for someone wanting to go work in church, I was like, I really effed up here. And so there was a lot of moments where I was like, all right, you just got to relax a little bit. And there would be times where I would intentionally ignore these questions. I would just push them away because I didn't want to deal with them, or I didn't want to think about them. And there's still times where I'm like, I don't have the energy to think about this. I don't have the energy to try and find an answer. And the best thing that I've done is figure out that more often than not, I won't find an answer.
I think with everyone, with how much you've been in the church and been exposed to the church, you're never going to find the answer. I mean, it's like, do you really want to waste the time? I mean, it's not wasting time, but I mean, I would think it'd be better just to be in thought about it instead of like reaching out to this guy or reaching out to this guy. I don't know. Cause I feel like if there was an answer, it would have been out by now.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. But the funny thing is that people claim they do have the answer. That's the thing.
That's
like,
true.
They all have, and that's where the conversations that I have with people, and I get DMs on Instagram through our Instagram page and stuff like that about people that are struggling with stuff. And like the different topics that I come up with oftentimes have some connection to a message that I've gotten or a conversation that I've had. And then there's really people that like this causes them a lot of anxiety and a lot of struggle because Thankfully for me, like my mom, for instance, is one of those that she and I are able to have like open conversation about all of the things that I talk about on the podcast, all the things about my faith, and even her faith has changed over the course of like the last 5 to 7 years, just reading different things and thinking through different things in different ways. But yeah, so the biggest thing for the podcast is trying to help people out that were in places where I was at, like in college, where I was freaking out. I didn't know really what to do with any of this, and just present like not answers, but different perspectives.
Yeah, and again, the longer I'm doing this, I'm a little bit older than you, just by a couple years, but yeah, I'm realizing more and more that the Bible's a ton more complex than anything that I could ever imagine. I remember even, Bible college, there were a lot of answers given.
Yeah.
And I wish there were more questions. And I guess, it's even encouragement for, people who are questioning faith, that is complex, that it is something that gets wrestled with. And yes, there's answers, but that doesn't mean that we'll know at this side of heaven what those answers are. So I think that's really cool. Now, with students, is this something that you're helping your students ask questions in high school? I don't know if you work with middle school or high school or both. Are you helping them process these?
Yes. So I work with both. We're really middle school heavy right now. I just took this job about a year ago, and so their student ministry was kind of in a weird place where a lot of high schoolers were attending other places just through some different stuff. But so right now, a lot of middle schoolers, they're not really answering or asking a lot of those questions yet. I feel like they will. Middle schoolers don't care about anything but having fun. So I don't even know if they even listen to my lessons when I give them. But mostly, the thing that I try to do in my student ministry in teaching I get to teach some on Sunday mornings as well, is I just try to teach the Bible in a way that wasn't taught to me. So I try to like explore, really get to like, how do I get to what this originally meant? What did this originally mean? And not like, and it's hard to do that obviously, but I am prepared to have conversations with students and things like that. And I am completely okay with telling them like, there will be people that tell you that there is a clear answer to this, but I'm not one of those people. And I can't give you a clear answer, because I think what that does is it misleads a lot of people in like really important transitions in their life.
What are you going to do when you do talk to a middle schooler or high schooler and that parent comes up to your boss and says, yeah, Blake is spinning this game? I can just hear them just be like, and this is not cool for us. We don't believe this, and he should stop doing this.
Well, I really hope that doesn't. It'll probably happen, but
it's gonna happen.
I really hope that doesn't happen. I think that like this is gonna sound like cliche. Hopefully I would handle it with grace and just like be like, I understand where you're coming from, and thankfully this is why I try to have one-on-one conversations about some of these topics with like my pastor and with other people that I work with, so that like if someone comes, it's not a shock. I'm not out here saying stuff that's like, I don't think heretical. I the biggest thing I come back to is really asking kids like, what does it mean for you to follow Jesus? If your life has been changed by saying that you believe that Jesus is your savior, whatever that looks like for you, what does that mean for you to follow Jesus like today, tomorrow, this week, the way in which you treat your friends at school, the way in which you go into a job one day, the way you live your life. I really, really try and push that a lot. And so hopefully I don't have to deal with those things, but I know that I'm not naive to the fact that as things get more and more polarized over the course of the next 10, 15, 20 years, that I'll have some fun times. So it'll be interesting.
Well,
hopefully I handle it with grace.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing too, right, is you're pushing them towards living it. Because as Jason and I, it feels like every week I come back to it, and I'm so sad with how Christians are handling things, because I'm looking at scripture and I'm like, man, I think Jesus calls us to act a lot different. And so, no, that's cool that you're teaching them to live the way of Jesus and not just random facts in their head.
Well, my thing is like, who cares if you think you have correct beliefs if you're an asshole?
Yeah.
Like that's like, well, what does that matter? Like, it's like, yeah, you can believe like any facts about anything, but if you're still a douchebag, it really hasn't like changed you in any kind of way or impacted you.
Yeah.
And that goes for me. Like if I get to a place where I'm like arrogant because I've observed all these different things and I don't just love people, then like I've truly missed the whole point of what it even means to be a Christian, a follower of Jesus. So
yeah, for sure. So speaking of your podcast, who's been your favorite guest so far?
So, oh man, favorite.
I know.
Probably Peter Enns, probably.
Okay.
Just because he was one of those early on. He's a biblical scholar. He actually, when I had that professor that was screwing my life up, he was one of the people he suggested for me to read. And so I got one of his first books. And when I started this podcast, I had like a list of like people I wish I could interview, and he was one of them. And slowly but surely, I was able to get some of these people on. And when I remember, like, we do it through Zoom. And I remember like getting a little thing where I had to let him in. It was like, Peter Enns wants to join
cool.
your Zoom. I was like, what the freak? This is wild. And so, yeah, that's always like a little getting butterflies right before I let people in. But I think him, just because I'm a Bible nerd. I care about all the other conversations of like how in which Christians behave and the way in which they ought to act. But at the end of the day, for me, I think a lot of people's struggles start with the Bible, and I just find it interesting. So, but he's a genius. He's a biblical scholar. He has a podcast called The Bible for Normal People, and it's really good. They have a lot of really cool conversations.
What is your goal with the podcast? I know you probably don't have one right now because you started during the pandemic, and at the beginning you said, hey, let's just see how this goes. And, you know, Threads has been around since 2017, and I hate to let it go. And not that I would, but at some point it will come to an end. I mean, it just has to. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to. I mean, I guess if we
could keep doing this forever.
I mean, you really could, but I mean, at some point you're going to be like, you know what, screw this stuff. Yep. So, where do you see the future of your podcast and moving forward from, you know, you've got quite a few episodes too.
Yeah, I don't really know. I've been thinking about that lately of what is my end goal here. I don't necessarily have an end goal per se. I think there are a few, like some more people I'd like to talk to, just for selfish reasons, to say that I was able to talk to them. And just it is a cool platform to meet some people through the internet that, you know, I wouldn't get otherwise.
Right.
But I don't know. I think my goal is to continue to like have these open conversations and just see where it goes. Yeah, I do sometimes wonder, like, will I get tired of doing this? Like, will it become like exhausting? Like, I mean, it is a lot of work when you have like a full-time job and you're trying to set up interviews and you're trying to, you know, do school or whatever you have going on and trying to do this too. But I think it's just to continue to have conversations until, you know, hopefully over time, like Jesus is understood. And obviously I'm not going to be the one to do that completely, but I want to help people see Jesus in a way that is how he looked and not how one form of Christianity has presented him to people.
You mean like being a white male?
Yeah, white Jesus with a MAGA hat on. So,
oh, geez, he went there.
Mega, and well, he's also from down south though. Like that's like extra down.
Oh
there.
yeah, dude. Oh my gosh, yeah, dude. I can't, dude. The QAnon stuff that goes on down here and all that, man, it's wild. And I'm pretty like middle of the ground, like when it comes to all that stuff. I'm pretty middle politically, but like just the whole Christian political stuff drives me bonkers.
Yeah, the Trump thing really just changed. Well, Trump and COVID with the masks and stuff, it really changed Christianity as a whole.
And that's like, that's what makes doing the podcast in a way easy. It almost is like kind of sad, like how much like topics there are to cover, because people keep like presenting like these different like, oh, this is the way Jesus is, or this is the way Christianity is, or these abuse cases come out that have been being covered up for 20 plus years. Like the denomination I grew up in just had like the SBC had all these like names come out of like people that were reported for like sexual abuse that the denomination intentionally covered up for like 20 years. So there's like always stuff to be talking about, and like trying to like cover those things and also encourage people at the same time is always a challenge. So it's just, you know, I see people that are hurting in Christianity, so I just want to kind of help as best I can.
Yeah. So you talk a lot about church. You work in the church world. So what do you think is the biggest failure of the modern church, and what is our way forward? That's a loaded question. But
so the biggest failure for the modern church, I think, and I think what it is taken modern day like corporate marketing and the way in which businesses do business and the way in which they like market a product, that's, I think, the biggest failure is over the course from like the 70s to like I think 2010. It's kind of shifted some, but I think it hit its peak in like 2016, 2017 of like church is this thing where you have this one guy that's this hot shot, that's the preacher that's leading the thing, that has a vision. And that's the thing, is like the perfect pastor has got to be great at creating vision. He's got to be a great speaker. He's got to be fashionable. And so that whole like mega church product, when it was created over time, like all these other churches were like, oh, we see these other churches growing and we want to grow, so we're going to do what they're doing. And you see the same exact thing with what businesses do. We see what Apple's doing, we want to do that as a business. And so what that did was, it's like, I think it's like this funnel of like doing church where you have these big events and you hopefully can get people into small groups and things like that. But you don't ever see Jesus really doing that. Like Jesus and the church, and like historically and in the book of Acts, like they're just hanging out. Like they weren't making money off the thing. They're actually being killed for it. And like so I think that is the biggest failure.
So
I think
sorry, I just want to talk into that a little bit. Is, when we talk the abuse, because we value the man on stage and the show, we don't care about the character, right? And so we have all these abuse, and we don't care if they display the fruit of the Spirit, if they display any of that. And we have horrible people who sound really good and who can put on a good show, and they're lauded as their spiritual director. So
it becomes a mess. And I think like what it does is it gets away from that thing I mentioned earlier, like where the way of Jesus, like what does it mean to follow the way of Jesus, and what does that look like every single day? And I think to do that, you have to like have people around you that are with you individually, that are a part of a community. And can that be done from a big church? Yes. But does it happen a lot? No, it doesn't seem to happen a lot. And even in small churches, everyone has their own silos. But I think the thing that, has to change is like really getting to the root of what does it mean to be an apprentice or a disciple of Jesus, and doing that kind of in smaller groups. I don't know what the way forward is in doing that, because people love being recognized and people love like being the guy. So, I mean, I don't think that'll change until Christians quit going to those churches and giving money to these churches. And so, and what we see is like even pastors can do the most horrific stuff and people still tithe and people still give money, and people say like, oh, you just don't understand the spiritual burdens he's got on him, and things like that. So, I think that's what the biggest mistake is. And I don't know what the way forward is. I think individually people have to recognize it.
Yeah. And I think it's people stop, as you said, stop going to those churches and stop giving money. I mean, like one that I listened to a lot when I was younger was Mark Driscoll. And Mark Driscoll did all those terrible things, and yet you hear people still say, who still go to church, well, there's a lot of fruit. That's like, but he's a terrible person who's abused people in a lot of different ways, and we're okay with that. And people are still giving money, and he's going to keep going until
he's got a church now in like Arizona that's huge.
Yeah. Yep.
It's
because
crazy.
And those people know it, and it's still going on there. And so, I think your solution is the best. It takes all of us stop going to those churches, stop tithing, and eventually there's no market for them. Which
did you listen to the Mars Hill podcast
of
series?
Course. Oh yeah,
that junk was crazy.
It was, and some of the things I knew and some of the things I didn't, I'm like, this, oh man, it was one of those where I'm like, I actually can't believe I listened to him and liked him at one point. But man, something happened.
I feel out of the loop. Was Mark a Mars Hill pastor?
But in
the Mars Hill in
Seattle. No, in Seattle.
Oh, Seattle. I thought the Mars Hill here that was the only one.
No, there were two. They both started roughly the same time. Both had the same name. Didn't know the other one had.
Oh, okay. It's completely okay.
There was a Mars Hill with like that Rob Bell pastored. I don't know if that's
in Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
Oh, is that where y'all are? See, I like Rob Bell. I wish he was still a pastor. His teaching, he's a really good teacher.
Yeah.
Really interesting guy.
Well, Blake, I appreciate the time. Where can people find your show? And obviously you're big on Instagram. That's where I saw. So why don't you let people know where they can find it? And then
you can find Rethinking Christianity on Apple, Spotify, all those, pretty much any streaming platform. You can find us on YouTube there. We have the episodes on there and some other stuff that we do. And then you can, if you want to follow us on Instagram, just type in Rethinking Christianity Podcast, and it'll come up with a little logo with a white head with some gears in it. So,
Cool.
But yeah, that's where you can find us. Thank y'all for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was a good
thanks, man.
conversation. Thanks for coming on.
Well, Jason, what did you learn from Mr. Blake Fine? Reverend Blake Fine. I don't think he's Reverend.
No, I don't
but
think he
we'll
is.
go with the Reverend. Whoa.
Yeah, I think I learned that he still can't swear on his podcast because he's a little nervous about his staff, which he's a young kid.
He's young.
You're seasoned. You've only been with your the congregation for like 5 years, but you're a seasoned human and been around the biz in quotes for a while. So no, I learned that I learned about Georgia and the split of the
Yeah, that
North
was
and South.
amazing.
I didn't know that about the racism that went on there, and it was weird that he brought that. Not weird. I was like, it's kind of weird that he used that as like his intro.
Yeah.
Anyways, Blake is an incredible human. I could tell that he has kindness in his eyes, and it was very nice to talk to him. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do.
Yeah. I'm going to do appreciate it instead of learn.
Yeah, that's
I'm going
fair.
to break the rules.
Yeah.
You can't stop me. I appreciated that it's somebody else who I'd say thinks a lot like me.
Yeah.
And being open. Again, I think we will land different places, even belief-wise. Even some of the authors, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I love them, but I love that he is open and trying to learn and not like, this is what we believe and you have to believe it, especially since he's working with middle school and high schoolers. Yeah, not many high schoolers now, but that's the time where I think the church's most failed students is.
Yeah.
I get it in middle school and even children's like, we should teach them the Bible stories. And here's what it says. But in high school, it should be like, hey, you're going off to college and we need you to start questioning this.
Yeah, it was interesting that you brought up the Noah thing. I didn't know there's an alternative to the Noah story. And again, you can't tell a kindergarten everyone got murdered or whatever it was or died from the flood or whatever. I didn't know that. Like I'm 40 today. I learned that everyone died but Noah. Like I didn't know that. And so I think it would be good in high school and say, hey, we sugarcoated this shit back there because we didn't want to scare you, but like this is the shit we need to talk about.
Well, because I think we do that in most. I'm trying to think back to high school, but I remember in some things like in science, you would learn something in elementary at that level, and they'd be like, "Okay, you learned this in elementary, but here's the full truth." And I feel like that's what high school should be like. Hey, everyone else drowned. Like, well, what is that? What questions? Because that brings up questions like, is God loving? My favorite thing I've learned about Noah since is a lot of Jewish scholars think Noah's sons after the ark saw their dad naked is what it says, but really in the Jewish they think he chopped off their dad's penis is what actually happened. I know
the family did,
the sons did.
Why?
There's a whole they don't know that, but like according to how the Hebrews written, they saw their father naked is this like code word for they chopped off his dad's.
So should I be worried about my sons doing that to me when I get older?
I don't know. But anyways, it's one of those things I learned just this past like month. And I'm like, been to Bible school and all this, but it's things that we don't talk about in our Bible that I think are harmful because they're real questions. They're real questions that we have.
And why do Christians why do people like look down at you when you question it? It's like, bro, it doesn't mean I don't love Jesus. I'm just questioning this stuff.
I tend to find that those who question the most love the most.
That is a really good statement. I appreciate that.
It's just what I've learned because then
they're thinking about it. They're not blindly following whatever this is. And they're like, you know what? This confuses me. You know, I love God. No, I think that's a really good point.
Let's put in another example is like you and Megan. Like you and Megan's journey. My guess is you love her more now than what you did even 5 years ago.
Oh, 100%.
And again, you guys have gone through therapy together. You guys have done that. So like not question, but you've asked hard questions with each other.
I mean,
and that's made you love her more. But we don't allow people to do that with God.
Yeah, like that's such a good point with Megan and I. Like more open communication brings you closer together of what you're trying to work on, whatever that is.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Same thing with God. You're reading the Bible and you're like, God, this doesn't make sense why you would kill off everybody but Noah's family. Is going to be a conversation you can have. So,
right.
So that's what I learned from him. I'm glad there's somebody else who is out there who is asking the questions, even though they're on church staff, and encouraging others to ask those questions.
Yeah. Well, guys, I appreciate you listening to the show as always.
And also girls too. We appreciate the girls.
Yeah, I feel like our media company, Hey Guys Media, like with all this like
Yeah.
woke stuff now, it's like Hey Guys Media, like.
Hey, people media.
But the only reason we called it that because I was like, "Hey guys, welcome to the show" or
Yep,
whatever. So,
yep.
but anyways, we have a Facebook group. We'd love for you to join that. We also have a newsletter. I did record a video for you,
Oh,
but
sweet.
yeah, did a bee inspection, so you
Ooh,
can look at that. It's pretty
yes.
boring. It's like 5 minutes. I'll
No,
cut
it's
it down.
really exciting.
I don't know what the. All right, I have to beep all this because Blake's gonna share it, and I got to make sure I beep all this.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'm doing as a beekeeper. I know, anyways. Well, you can see it in the newsletter. Shit show. And so you can sign up for that on our website, threadspodcast.com/newsletter. It's free. And then, of course, we have Patreon. We had our first Patreon member, Joe Pellerito. Thank you, Joe. There's 3 different tiers, $3, $7, and $20 a month. The $20 is like, we'll pretty much rub your back. Mike is freaking out over here. But it doesn't really matter what tier you do. We appreciate each one of you. And always to help us out non-financially, which we appreciate, just share the show. Share it with somebody that you love or don't love. I don't care.
Yeah.
Share it with an enemy. We don't care.
Share it with an enemy and make them listen to it.
Yeah, I'd say listen to this crap. All right, guys. As always, keep the faith, do your work, and live life unfiltered.
Peace.